Anakin Skywalker was the chosen one. He was specifically singled out, selected by the Force itself, to destroy the Sith and restore true balance to the Force. But in a climactic turn of events, the decorated Jedi Knight fell to the dark side of the Force. His desperation to save his wife from what he believed to be certain death would push young Skywalker over the edge. He would do whatever was necessary to prevent his premonitions of losing Padme in childbirth from becoming reality. And Darth Sidious, the man who had orchestrated the entire Clone War, the one secretly responsible for Anakin's nightmares, twisted this young Jedi to believe that the mysterious powers of the dark side were the one and only way to save his wife from what was otherwise a death sentence. And so, Anakin Skywalker would fall, Darth Vader rising in his place, the Sith would return, and the Galactic Empire would rise. But, as we would see, Darth Vader's ascension is ironically what would cause Padme's death in the end. And as that reality sets in, one common question that arises is, why did Darth Vader stay on the dark side after Padme died? And there are two different avenues to explore when answering this question. The first is that Padme is not the only reason Anakin chose to turn to the dark side. She is simply the final and arguably the strongest catalyst that drives his turn. But let's look at some of the other things outside of Padme that set up Anakin's fall. Starting from the very beginning, Anakin was raised as a slave on Tatooine. He knows what it's like to be treated like he doesn't matter. He starts from the very bottom. And then when he is finally rescued by the Jedi, the heroes and protectors of the galaxy, he's told that his mother cannot come with him. Instead, she is doomed to remain a slave forever, while Anakin gets to go start a new life all on his own. His feelings on this transition and about his mother's well-being overall are very strong. But he is told to ignore those thoughts, to suppress them, and essentially to forget that his mother even exists because intergalactic laws do not allow for him to go save her, and because the Jedi are forbidden from attachment anyways. This of course does not sit well with Anakin, who continues to be haunted by premonitions of his mother suffering a brutal death, which he could so easily prevent if not for the senseless limitations set by the Jedi Council. And when young Skywalker does return to Tatooine against the wishes of the Council to see these visions becoming a reality, as his mother dies in his arms, the floodgates are opened. It's in that moment that we see the fiery, untamed rage of Darth Vader step out for the very first time. Although Anakin would not truly fall to the dark side until many years after this event, the death of his mother would create an internal storm that would have Skywalker teetering between the light side and the dark for the rest of his existence. The Jedi told him he was the chosen one. Palpatine, who was quite possibly his greatest mentor after Obi-Wan Kenobi, predicted that he would become the most powerful Jedi who ever lived. Through the words of his friends and leaders, Anakin was placed on a pedestal. But at the same time, the Council did not deem him worthy of becoming a Jedi Master. They refused to send him to face General Grievous, despite him being the most obvious choice. The Jedi Council does not trust him, yet he is expected to put his full faith in them. He is instructed to spy on one of his closest friends. As a member of this Jedi Council who prides themselves on integrity, Anakin is told to go behind the back of his mentor in an act that clearly breaks the Jedi code. He falls in love, but cannot share the happiness that relationship brings him with anyone but his wife. He cannot explain to Yoda nor Obi-Wan why letting go of his fears is not an option, because opening up to them would result in expulsion from this order which he has dedicated his entire life to. It's the combination of all of these factors, along with plenty of other experiences which we didn't even touch on, like the death of Qui-Gon Jinn for example, that lead to Anakin's eventual fall. But now let's have a look at the other angle, in which we analyze Darth Vader's circumstances after his turn to the dark side. And here's the question we have to ask ourselves. By the time Darth Vader realizes that Padme is dead, is going back to the Jedi Order even an option? Let's take a look at everything that has transpired. At this point in the story, Anakin has turned against Mace Windu, which of course resulted in his death. He led the raid on the Jedi Temple. He himself has murdered numerous Jedi within the temple. He's murdered the younglings, the separatists. He choked his own wife, which resulted in her eventual death. And finally, he attacked Obi-Wan, who then severed his limbs and left him to burn, which forces Vader to take on an entirely new identity. And all of those events collectively push him further and further toward the dark side. He has finally unleashed his rage, and as Yoda says later on in the story, once he starts down the dark path, forever will it dominate his destiny. The dark side is not something you can just channel when you want to and then return back to the light as if nothing ever happened. It's seductive, it makes you feel empowered, it literally consumes you. But let's just say, for the sake of this discussion, that Anakin did actually consider returning to the Jedi Order. But wait, there is no Jedi Order anymore. Almost all of the Jedi are dead. Palpatine has already risen as the ruler of the new Galactic Empire, and he stands atop the galaxy with a seat for Lord Vader at his side. So here is the hypothetical decision Vader would now be faced with. He can either seek out the handful of surviving Jedi scattered across the galaxy, hope he can convince them to forgive him, which of course is extremely unlikely for anyone who knows the truth about everything he's done, and then, assuming that does happen, which it wouldn't, he can eke out a sad existence on the run from the mighty Empire which he just helped to create. Or he can ascend. He can take his place at the Emperor's side. He can rule the galaxy, and eventually, if he so chooses, and this is Darth Vader's mindset, not the actual reality of what might happen if they do face off, he can take Palpatine's place as Emperor. And if that doesn't happen, together they will still rule. They can bring peace and order, and maybe, just maybe, they will uncover the secret to eternal life. As you can see, there were no choices to be made. Returning to the light was not an option. That possibility was erased by Anakin himself, as he made decision after decision to feed his thirst for vengeance. Losing Padmé was devastating for Vader, of course, but the Empire is his home now. He can still leave his mark on history. The Jedi, from his point of view, had been wrong anyways. They had lost sight of their true purpose. They were protecting and supporting a government that made no sense to him. Thanks to him, the war was over. He had brought peace, justice, and security to his new empire. And now, as the terrifying Sith Lord he had become, he would ensure that no Jedi would ever return to upend all of the great work he had done. Vader is twisted. He is blinded by the dark side of the Force. Palpatine has him right where he wants him. He would never go back and try to scrounge up some mutiny against the Empire because he truly believes what he is doing is right. He has been consumed by the darkness. He has no desire to return. He hates the Jedi for what they did to his former self. Their dogmatic views held him back and ultimately destroyed his life. He blames them, not himself. And so, with nothing else to live for, he seeks them out, on a mission to ensure both that they pay for their sins and that they never return to power. And that's the story. Regardless of the circumstances that led him to that point, by the time Padmé dies, Darth Vader is already deep into his downward spiral, and her death solidifies his turn, as there is now no reason for him to ever even consider going back. That is, of course, until he finds out that his son survived. But with all of that being said, I am going to wrap this video up here, so thank you guys so much for watching. Please remember to give this video a like to support the channel, leave a comment, and let me know how you guys feel about Anakin's turn down below. Subscribe to the channel if you are new, and of course, may the Force be with you always.